Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a department that almost everyone deals with, but, not many people really get what they do. I'm talking about human resources.
So let's be honest. When you think of HR, what comes to mind? Probably hiring, firing, contracts, right? Maybe the person who plans the office party? But what if I told you that behind the scenes, their job is way more complex, and it's actually critical to whether a company succeeds or totally fails?
Okay, so to really wrap your head around HR, think of it like it has two engines that have to work together. First, you've got the managerial engine. This is the why. It's all about the big picture, the strategy. Then, you have the operative engine. That's the how. This is the part that actually executes all the day-to-day stuff. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at those two engines. Then, we'll see how HR actually builds and keeps a great team. After that, we'll look at how the role of HR has totally transformed over the years, and we'll finish up with the huge challenges they're wrestling with today. Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1, those two engines. We've got the strategy and we've got the action. So this managerial engine, think of it as the company's strategic brain. It's all about looking ahead, planning for what skills the company is going to need down the road. It organizes the whole structure of the workforce, directs people to make sure everyone's pulling in the same direction, and then crucially, it controls things, basically checking to see if the plan is actually working out. And then you've got the action engine, the operative side. This is where all that strategy actually gets real. This is the HR you've probably seen in action, right? Sourcing and hiring people, helping everyone grow with training and development, handling compensation, and just generally trying to make the workplace a place where people can, do good work and get along. All right, so let's follow that thought. Let's start with maybe the most visible part of what HR does, building the team from scratch. Building an amazing team isn't just luck. It's a very deliberate process. It all starts with a deep dive, a job analysis, to figure out what a role truly needs. Then comes the recruitment and selection, finding the right person. But, and this is key, it doesn't stop when they sign the contract. The final steps, placement and orientation, are what really turn that new person into a valuable part of the team.
But hey, getting someone to join is really just the first step. The next big challenge for HR, and maybe the tougher one, is to help that person grow and, more importantly, give them reasons to stick around.
And this is where you see HR shift from being a kind of gatekeeper to being more of a gardener, a cultivator. Because developing your people isn't just some nice little perk. It's a core strategy for building a stronger, more resilient company from the inside. So how do they do that? Well, this investment takes a few key forms. Performance appraisals, they're not just about grading you. They're about finding untapped potential. Training is about building the skills you'll need for what's next. Career planning gives you a roadmap for your future inside the company. And internal mobility, promotions, transfers, that's like HR playing chess, moving the right talent to the right places as the game changes. Of course, all the growth opportunities in the world don't mean much if people feel like they're not being paid fairly. That brings us to the other side of the coin, compensation. And getting this right is a real mix of art and science. And believe it or not, there's a whole science behind your paycheck. HR doesn't just pull a number out of a hat. They do these things called job evaluations to figure out a role's real worth. They build salary structures to make sure things are fair across the board, and they use bonuses to reward awesome work. Throw in benefits and retirement plans, and you see they're really building a whole total rewards package that's designed to keep you motivated and secure.
Now, everything we've been talking about, this huge range of responsibilities, is actually a pretty recent development. The role of HR has gone through this massive transformation, from basically a clerk to a strategic catalyst.
Way back when, HR was really just an administrative job. Think filing cabinets, running payroll, and just making sure all the legal boxes were ticked. This was the clerk phase. Super important, for sure, but completely reactive. Then, as companies got bigger and more complicated, the roles started to evolve. HR became more of an employee advocate, someone who championed the workforce. This operational role was all about managing employee issues and fighting for fair treatment, a huge step towards being more focused on people. And that brings us to today, where the goal, the ideal, is for HR to be a true strategic partner. What does that mean? It means they're not just managing people anymore, they're using data on people, things like employee turnover costs or engagement scores, to actually influence huge business decisions. They've gone from just enforcing the rules to being a catalyst for the company's success. And being that catalyst is more important now than it has ever been, because the challenges HR pros are facing today are, well, they're enormous, and they're changing all the time. At the very core of this modern HR role is a huge ethical responsibility. I mean, think about it. When you're the person handling people's careers, their pay, and their conflicts, integrity isn't just a nice idea. It's everything. It's the whole foundation. And the potential ethical problems are everywhere. Seriously, we're talking about everything from a manager's personal bias affecting who gets a raise, all the way to things like sexual harassment or favoritism in hiring. In pretty much all of these situations, HR is the first, and sometimes the last, line of defense for the company's integrity. But it's not just about these internal ethical dilemmas. HR is also right on the front lines, trying to navigate these massive external forces that are completely reshaping how we work. Just think about it for a second. Technology is constantly changing what jobs even exist. Our workforces are more diverse than ever before. Globalization creates all this incredible opportunity, but also incredible complexity. And companies are always restructuring just to stay competitive. Every single one of these massive trends lands right on HR's plate as a strategic problem to solve. So, when you put it all together, you can see how HR has traveled this incredible journey from a simple administrator to a vital strategic player. Which really brings us to a final, crucial question for you to think about. In your own workplace, is your HR team acting like a clerk, just focus on the paperwork and the rules, or are they a catalyst, actively helping to shape strategy and drive the business forward? The answer to that question? Well, it probably says a lot more than you think about where your company is headed.